Hello everyone, welcome back to Brilliant Pit Seasonal Wellness YouTube channel, or if you're tuning in from Seasons and Sessions Facebook group, welcome back. My name is Liz. I am the owner of Brilliant Pit Seasonal Wellness, and I talk all about seasonal wellness, astrology, and how to best live in harmony with the seasons on this channel. So today we are talking about Leo season. It is finally Leo season, the season of the sun, the season of midsummer. It is hot and we are going to dive into Leo seasonal wellness. So what does that incorporate? We are going to be talking Leo symbolism as an astrology sign. We're going to touch on the forecast for Leo season, which is July 22nd, which is today, all the way to August 22nd, about a month's worth of astrological transits to watch out for. And then I'm going to leave you with lifestyle tips and business tips, 3 each, so that you can best harmonize your lifestyle, your business processes with the season at hand and the energies at hand. So we can just jump right into it. As you guys know, I take thorough notes when I am preparing for these talks, so you might see me looking down at my notebook. Before we get started also, I want to tell you about my brand new Happy Birthday Leo card. I just wanted to give you a little preview of what this is, what it looks like. It is a completely empty card, but it's so cute, vintage. It has this beige kind of color to it, and you can now get it on Etsy. It is $7, and yeah, I am falling in love with doing these zodiac cards. I'm just having so much fun with it, so I'm really excited for Virgo season. I have Mars in Virgo. I also know a lot of Virgos. My partner is a Virgo. And yeah, I just have so many good ideas for Virgo. I'm super happy with how this came out. So if you want to wish your lady friend, your colleague, your family member a happy birthday in vintage retro style, this is probably your best option. Leo season. We are officially in a sign, and basically what I mean by we're officially in, meaning that the sun is now transiting in the constellation of Leo. So what that essentially means for us is that it brings certain energies alive. When the sun transits a constellation, certain themes, certain energies tend to be a little bit more accessible to us, and that is exactly why I create these videos for you, because it is best to align with the energies at hand. You might notice like technology going wonky sometimes, and maybe there's just like an overall mood of sadness and or sorrow, and a lot of the times we can trace these things back to astrology, and that is why I'm just so obsessed with it. I will forever love astrology for that very reason, because it gives context and it gives just reasoning for things that kind of would otherwise go unnoticed. So Leo season is the fixed fire sign ruled by the sun of the zodiac. So there is no other fixed fire sign in the zodiac, and it just so happens to be ruled by the sun. So what can we say initially about Leo based on this? Fixed signs are in the middle of a season. So basically, when we think about Leo energy, it's an energy of sustaining something. It wants to continue what has been started by the cardinal sign, and it wants to almost stay consistent with that, build off of what has already been built, and so on and so forth. Fire sign means that the motivations, the tendencies, the themes have to do with passions, very abrupt change, abrupt will, and things that really drive to a level that is almost like, not whiplash, but it's like the driving force behind things can seem extremely passionate, somewhat dramatic, really expressive, really creative, and just really supportive of passion, essentially. Because fire is really this really extreme force here on Earth. So what we can say about fire is that it's extreme. If there's an emotion tied in with fire, then it becomes passion. And so that brings me to my notes. So there are themes of everlasting life, as I basically just said, an everlasting burn of passion. So themes of legacy, vitality, matters of the heart, the identity, reputation, uniqueness, and expression of the soul can come to a head. So when you hear all of these words, you can probably think of a Leo in your head and be like, wow, that person really does actually have a lot of heart behind what they do. Or wow, that Leo person that I know really does align certain things with their identity to a level that's almost, it can't go missed. It's like there's this thing about a Leo and their personality that is almost like you can't miss it. You can't just overlook it. It's not so like Scorpio in a way where like there could be certain elements of a personality that might just not show up front or even in getting to know somebody, but a Leo just has this magnetic personality, this very predominant personality. Leo is also seen in astrology as the giver of life, the spark, the energy, the aspiration for the future. And why I say aspiration for the future is because it is the opposite of Aquarius. And Aquarius is all about idealism and thinking into the future. How can things be better? Like almost thinking outside of the box for the collective, for the good of the collective. Leo is almost like thinking outside the box for the terms of self and being creative with the self. I do still think that there is a deep connection when it comes to the future with Leo, and I'll explain a little bit why. I think that in the summertime, and this kind of taps into a little bit more of just the seasonal wellness stuff, when you think about the time of year, in this time of year, there's this presence of sustaining life and keeping the plants watered, keeping everything harvested and growing fluidly and naturally and as much as it can, right? Like there's this emphasis on a lot and abundance and having like this overwhelming amount of resources. But when we say resources, it's more so in terms of like Leo, themes of Leo in that sense. So that would be passion, that would be enough sustaining energy. It's all about vitality, the nutrients, the things that are grown right now have like this high potency of nutrients versus all other times of the year. And I don't see that as kind of like a coincidence. I think that everything that happens in the year is in direct relation to astrology in a sense. Like we can definitely relate Leo season to the abundance of growth of plant life, of food, of all that is outside, because there is an abundant energy, an energy of sustaining life and keeping it going in the fixed fire energy that Leo has. So another note that I wrote down here is, I guess, traits you could call traits of Leo, and that would be open, loving nature, the first realization of the sun's descent into the underworld, creates a reality of life extending its wings further, cultivating more life. If Cancer represents the age of 25, if Aries is birth, right? So we just went through the first quarter of the year, but essentially when you think about a lifespan, and you maybe call the end of your life 100 for the sake of just numbers, Leo is actually in the late 20s era of age. So ironically, it's when women tend to create more life. And so I found that to be super, super interesting when just looking at the seasonal wellness side of Leo. I'm currently working on a little cycle wheel that I'm really excited to share eventually. I don't know when I'll be sharing it. It's just something that I'm studying. I created and now I'm studying it to kind of just inform myself on some of the symbolism that I see in the astrological year, in the progression of the seasons. So that's something that I noticed when I looked at Leo. And if this doesn't make sense to you, I'll maybe explain it a little bit more. So if Aries is birth, and the reason we say Aries is birth is because it's right after Pisces, which in astrology, actually, when you look at the house systems, everything really does mirror kind of Aries being the beginning of the year, in a multitude of ways that I won't really explain. But basically, Aries is spring. It marks the first light of spring, and I would consider spring birth in terms of symbolism, because winter feels like the death, and winter feels like the inner world. There's nothing outward about it. There's nothing powerful, sparking, motivating about it. And that's why birth to me would be Aries, because it is the very first sign of spring. And so when you think about that and you say, okay, if Aries is birth, then Cancer, in terms of like the life cycle, the age, if Pisces is about 100, then we can call Cancer like 25, right? That's like around the age of 25. And so I thought it was so interesting that Leo, the place in where Leo is in this kind of seasonal wellness cycle chart, is really at the time of when it's like you create more life, you sustain more life, you are almost like expanding your legacy when you think about like women and their era of pregnancy. I thought that was so interesting, because it really does speak to Leo. And another thing about Leo in this sense is that, as I said, that soul energy, like the expression of the soul, when you think about that, like deep down, the expression of the soul is really your expression as a child. Because when you're young, you have no influences, you have no kind of like things that are getting in the way of your own self-expression, right? So when we think about the sun, and we think about how the sun really does symbolize expression, vitality, identity, literally just like the outward just personality, the expression, the literal soul. It's really interesting that when we think about Leo and its tendency to sustain life and its tendency to create life, it's like creative, and it's like soul creative. So there's definitely this trait of like child and children, and the creativity that is so alive as a child, because it's like almost this pure expression of the soul, which I think is exactly what Leo is all about. So my last note here before we get into forecast is following the heart and brightening / revitalizing our vigor are big themes. So that's something I didn't really touch on in this, but a huge element to Leo is the heart space, the emotional heart. And kind of, I would see this as almost like a fusion of Cancer energy with like fire energy, right? So we were just in Cancer season, but as a cardinal sign, Cancer, the strength of kind of the beginning of a season can actually, in my opinion, it can kind of trail off into the other signs. And so Leo and all of the fixed signs, I think, do have somewhat of an element of the cardinal sign right before it in them. And with Leo, it's almost like Cancer has this emotional tide. It's ruled by the moon, and the moon controls the ocean and the tides, and it's like this fluid, emotional, intellectual energy. And then when you move that energy into this fire fixed sign, it's like the emotional space almost becomes this like this place of like taking action. So when you think about taking action with this like emotional theme, you think of the heart, you think of what you are really led by in this life. And like when people say follow your heart, that's like truly a real thing, I think, for Leo and for Leo season and for Leos in general. It's like this tendency to just have this hyper awareness around the heart and what the heart wants, what the heart is working towards, and the action being taken based on the feelings of the heart, because it's so much more intense when you get into the season of Leo from the season of Cancer. Okay, so now we are going to get into the Leo season forecast. So this month, really as like a general little intro, really starts out very smoothly. The beginning of Leo season, which actually isn't the beginning of this month. Leo season starts today, July 22nd, and the sun enters Virgo on August 22nd. So it's exactly a month, but the beginning of Leo season is extremely seamless, really supportive. The reason I say that is because a lot of planets are in their home domicile. So it's like they're at home with the constellations that they are in right now in the sky. And then once the new moon in Leo happens, energy sort of gets a little bit more difficult, I would say, but nothing crazy. There's nothing major that is happening this month that would, I guess, shake you up as much as it did last month with the Mars-Uranus conjunction. So July 22nd, the sun enters Leo, that is today. July 25th, which is in 3 days, Mercury enters Virgo. So the sun is in Leo, Mercury is in Virgo. Both of these planets rule these signs. So like the sun rules Leo, Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini. So they are both in home domicile position. So this is very supportive energy. This is like easy energy. Everything's going to feel more natural. Sun elements of life are going to just feel easy. Mercurial energies and mercurial aspects of life like business, commerce, transportation are going to feel easy right now because it's in Virgo. And then we have August 4th. There's a new moon in Leo. So just a beautiful new moon in Leo in the beginning of August. I cannot believe it's already August, by the way. That's so crazy. So August 4th, on the same day that we have a new moon in Leo, Venus enters Virgo. And so Venus entering Virgo means that Venus is now in its fall. So basically what this means in very, very short terms, I won't get really deeply into this. When a planet is in its opposing sign of its exaltation, then it is automatically in its fall. So if Venus is exalted in Pisces, and basically it does well there, all of the elements of Venus align perfectly with the elements of Pisces, so therefore it's like this exalted energy. It's like really predominant, it's really supportive, it's almost like overly supportive and overly beneficial. You could say that the exact opposite is true when Venus is in Virgo, because Virgo and Pisces are opposites. So Venus entering Virgo is going to be a little bit of a more difficult energy. It's only going to really be felt and or just noticed by people with like heavy Venus aspects in their birth chart, or a lot of Virgo energy, as in like a lot of planets in Virgo. So definitely look at your birth chart if you don't know all of that information. I also have a link in the description where you can input your birth chart information so that you can see your birth chart. So the very next day we have Mercury retrograde. So this is where I'm kind of thinking might be a little bit of an iffy energy. This is August 4th and the 5th. As much as we have the new moon, which is lovely, we have Venus entering Virgo in her fall and Mercury going retrograde the next day. So mind you, Mercury is still retrograde in Virgo, so it's not going to be as noticeable as if, say, Mercury was going retrograde in Pisces, its opposite. Then it would probably be a little bit more noticeable. We have August 19th, full moon in Aquarius, so that's some days later, I would say about a week and a half later, we've got the full moon in Aquarius. On the same day, Jupiter squares Saturn. So these are two very, very big, slow-moving planets. And this actually is symbolic of a time that has passed us already It is the first major aspect that these two planets are making since their conjunction in Capricorn in December of 2020. So they will be squaring each other for the first time. So basically it's like they were conjoined, and this is the first aspect that they're making to each other. The first, I guess, like big aspect. And squares can be challenging. So that might be a bit of a challenging time depending on where it falls in your birth chart. But yeah, just symbolic of what was going on in December of 2020 for you, for the collective. So think back, maybe look back at journal entries for that time and see what was going on in your life. And then we end Leo season on the 22nd when the sun enters Virgo. So that is the Leo season forecast. All of these are just good to note because this forecast informs my lifestyle tips and my business tips, because I thoroughly think through the energies at hand, what would be most supportive. I'm not purely basing it off of Leo symbolism because I want to take into account the context of the planets, the context of the sky right now, what is going on throughout the month, and then inform my lifestyle tips and business tips to better serve what is actually happening currently. So we will get into the lifestyle tips first. My very first lifestyle tip for Leo season is this is a great time to harvest food in local environment. So nourish yourself to replenish new energy, reinvigorate life, right? That is kind of the themes we've been talking about this whole video. It's all about like nourishing your vitality, your inner soul. It's like feeding your soul as well as your kind of like adrenal energy. So it's like, what can you do to replenish your adrenal fatigue? Say that you have like chronic fatigue, or you're feeling just like, wow, this summer I've put out a lot of energy and I'm just feeling really exhausted. My life force, it's all about the life force that's running a bit low. So what I suggest is, of course, we're in the summertime in the Northern Hemisphere, and berries, vegetables are all in season right now. Strawberries are a bit late right now, but blueberries are like perfectly in season right now, especially in the Northeast. So I do suggest berries, picking berries, vegetables that are just growing in abundance right now all summer. You can freeze, preserve in vinegar, or store them in a cool area. Obviously, fruit is going to go bad. Some veggies are going to go bad unless you properly refrigerate them. But all of these activities are super supportive right now to sustain life and keep that life force in good hands and good energy, and like this abundant energy of literally energy. Another note here is herbs. So you can dry or create tinctures with fresh herbs right now. This is something that, as some of you know, I'm studying herbalism right now with the Herbal Academy. And I was creating so many more herbal-based products when I was in my in-person apprenticeship, my wild crafting herbalism apprenticeship at Sweet Birch Herbals. If you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description. She's based in Western Mass, but that was such a beautiful time because it allowed me to not only connect with women and just like every month just check in with each other, see how everything has been affecting each other, the seasons. And since I'm so into astrology, if there was like a heavy transit, I would let them know. I'd be like, guys, this next month you gotta watch out for this transit because it might be rough. So that allowed me to not only connect with these amazing women, but it allowed me to also have herbalism as a part of my every month. I would bring home all these products, be able to utilize them, and they were all seasonally made. It's like the berries, the hawthorn berries that are prevalent in the springtime into the summertime, and then you harvest and you make an elixir. It was just, and like rose during this time of year. It was just so amazing to have that kind of collective to do these seasonal things. So I don't know if I'm just speaking off of what I'm inspired by, but that was something that really reinvigorated my life force in a way. So that's just another little tidbit. If you are looking for community, a sense of community, try to maybe go to your local farm to pick berries and or gather the vegetables that they probably have in a farm store. Make connections that way. You never know if there's some sort of herbalism program or something that you can do to align yourself even more with the seasons. So my second lifestyle tip is to explore your inspirations and get creative with how you engage. So I wrote down here, inspired by herbalism, this is an example. Inspired by herbalism, try to create something you haven't before or revisit your old inspirations and give them new life. Again, with the giving the new life. Very, very Leo season. So if you are inspired by something, but there's something about it that feels maybe fixed, like this fixed energy in the air, you can utilize this energy of Leo by engaging with things in a way that you wouldn't otherwise, or engaging with things in a way more creative way so that it inspires almost something new for you. Like it inspires something new and therefore it like gives you this new lily pad leap of life, and then you can like sustain that life in a different way. So there's all these different ways and all these different examples, but I just use herbalism as an example of like, say you always create tinctures, you always use like an alcohol menstruum, and you always do like similar herbs because in the winter time you want that respiratory support, so you use thyme, sage, all of that. Try something a bit different, like really go outside of the box and say, okay, it's July, how can I reinvigorate my sense of nourishment, my sense of energy and like pure life energy by filling my cup with growth that is available to me, with this abundance of growth outside. So you could do like red raspberry leaf tea mixed with rose or beach rose. All of this is gonna really reinvigorate your sense of life because these are potent plants right now. The energy in the plant life right now is just like bubbling over with nutrients and minerals. And of course, always consult your doctor, your practitioner. If you don't know, if you can't identify herbs, I never ever support just going off on your own and foraging and then consuming herbs. Always know what you're doing, and always, if you are going to source herbs, do it from an organic source, fair trade, sustainable crafting practices, all of that. But this is just one of those activities that is super, super supportive right now, and you can engage with not only the season, but with the energy of Leo all at once. Okay, so my last lifestyle tip for Leo season is to meditate on what sustains your identity and make the time to engage with those things now. So now we are tapping into kind of that life force, that soul energy. If you have to kind of like really meditate for a while to get back into kind of that state of accessing your soul desires, the things that make you feel like you. For me, I'll give you an example of this. So for me, I feel like the way that my identity really, really comes out is when I'm listening to music in the car and I can sing my heart out, and it's like this no judgment zone. It's this time to think and obviously pay attention to the road, but it's also just a time of almost getting thoughts like concluded and resolving thoughts, but through the expression and the creativity of music. I find that those moments is when I feel most like myself and most reinvigorated in who I am. And so that's just a pure example of what that could be. But to give you some other examples of what this could be for you, if you don't even know what that is for you, try riding your bike, yoga, going to the spa, salon, get your nails done. Anything that makes you feel like you is extremely, extremely supported right now, because Leo is truly all about identifying the uniqueness that is you. It's very related to Aquarius in that sense, because Aquarius wants to be outside of the box. It wants to differentiate. And Leo also wants to differentiate, but in its almost like internal way. It's like, I want to differentiate my access to reinvigorating life force. While Aquarius is like, I want to be different outside of the box to inspire the world, right? Like that's the vibe. It's like the other and the self. And Leo is definitely more focused on the self evolution. All right, so we are on to business tips for Leo season. So if you are listening in from Seasons and Sessions, this is where you're going to want to listen up. And if you don't know about Seasons and Sessions, I will definitely have a link below. Basically, I have another business, Essence Presents Production, and I basically create content for wellness businesses, crafters, and creatives there. And I have a little Facebook group that is going to have mini shoots available in the fall. So you can sign up for the Facebook group completely free, obviously. It's a place for mainly wellness businesses who want to kind of align their content with the season through these mini shoots that I'm going to be launching. But also I put these videos in there for my community so that they can understand how to live more in alignment with the seasons. It's definitely more for my wellness businesses, my businesses who really, really love wellness practices and who value wellness practices in their business. So if you want to check that out, definitely go to the description and check out this Seasons and Sessions link. So my first business tip, for the remainder of July, focus on brand identity activities in your business. I also wrote, how can you become more unique in presentation? Can you refine your voice? What truly makes you you? So again, with the identity, with the self-expression, but this is all in the context of business. And so why I say for the remainder of July is mainly because, as I said in the forecast section of this video, for the remainder of July, we have some very supportive energies when it comes to the Sun and Mercury. The Sun is all about ego, identity, personality, vitality, as you know, and Mercury is all about business, commerce, and transportation, and the things that are fast moving but more in our environment. So that would be Mercury things. And so as a business tip, what you can do to really like hone in on this energy is to focus on this brand identity. Like, how can you make your business, your brand, more yourself? Whether that means like a makeover of your brand, you want to rebrand. That's another thing that would be supportive right now. Another way that you can engage with this energy is re-establish kind of like your brand voice guidelines. So what words? It's almost like re-establishing your brand voice on the platforms, on your ads, wherever that is. Doesn't have to be online, but rethinking over like, how does this, for instance, campaign align with our mission? And is it in the correct voice? Are we coming off as professional or are we coming off as casual? It's all about like really establishing those guidelines so that whether it's your team working on this or it's you have this newfound life that you can integrate into kind of your marketing from here on out. So my second business tip for Leo season is to challenge yourself by putting yourself out there in ways you otherwise wouldn't. So again, you definitely have heard me say this in the video thus far, but basically putting yourself out there is another thing that Leo does naturally. As I mentioned kind of in the beginning, like, you will notice a Leo's personality in a room because it's hard to miss. It's very vibrant, it's full of life, it's full of vigor, it's full of vitality. There's this sense in Leo people that there's this life-giving energy. It's either magnetizing to others or it gives people life in some way. And so challenging yourself to put yourself out there in ways that you otherwise wouldn't is more so speaking to the symbolism of this month, which could be supportive altogether as the sun is just transiting through this constellation that's supportive of expression, creativity, sustaining life and building life. And I think if you were to put yourself out there, put yourself in the spotlight in certain ways, it wouldn't have the same effect as if it would happen in another season. I think that it would be more supportive. And so ways that you can do this is lean into things that strive towards who you want to be. So this is another way to like really hone in on this energy. The reason I say strive towards the things that you want to be is because we're also connected to aspirations here. Again, Aquarius, all about aspirations, idealism, the future. So when we're in Leo season, we take action with the self to put ourselves in those situations that move us closer to our future desire. And whenever you do those things, you, I think, know, if you've ever put yourself out there in ways that you otherwise wouldn't, you feel so much better afterwards, because you know for a fact that you are only moving towards the life that you want, and the life that is going to be sustaining you, the life that is going to be reinvigorating you time and time again, because it's so inspiring, it's passion driven, it's purpose driven, all of that. So examples of this, of leaning into the things that you are striving towards, could be creating a video about a certain process in your business. Talking through a topic that's big in your industry is another way to do this. Think like YouTube video, starting a YouTube channel for your business, putting out a survey of some sort, or literally just like putting yourself in the spotlight in some way that you never have before, even with your customers or with your team, your internal team. This is all going to be supportive of your growth. So when we challenge ourselves, we are supporting our growth, and that is what this time and this season is truly all about. Okay, so my last business tip for Leo season is to focus on the creative aspects of your business. So design, website, representation, logo, branding. What I also say here is try to update communications to emphasize new creativity or new formats, templates, all for the sake of reinvigorating your creative spark. So this is truly simply speaking to the creative tendencies that Leo has, that Leo is supportive of. It is all about the colors, the vibrancy, the vitality, the life that is in these design elements. If you're finding that like you just feel uninspired by maybe this online representation of your website, you feel like, wow, I really could rebrand this and it would feel like reinvigorated. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten a rebrand of some sort, but it's truly a feeling that is unmatched, and it's one of those feelings that I think Leo is like extremely privy to. It's that feeling of like, okay, there's this new goal, there's this new motivation to stay within this mission and really reach my goals, right? Like it's all about reaching that goal and reaching those ideal visions for your life. And so when you think about your brand, when you think about your design elements, your templates, all the things that go into what represents you as a brand and a business, those are the things, the website, the logo, the branding, all of those things really play a huge role in the inspiration you'll have for continuing on in your business. And especially if you're visually inclined, these are the things that are going to draw your target audience into you. It's going to magnetize that, but it's also going to reinvigorate you to really, really do what you do best in the best way possible and in the most inspiring way possible. So that is all I have for you today. This was the Leo season video for the month. I will be back next month for Virgo season, which I'm really excited about. If you guys have checked out the Etsy shop, definitely give me a thumbs up in this video so I know that you guys are into what I have going on at Etsy. If you have any other ideas for products, I've been toying around with a couple of ideas for products in the Etsy shop, like birth chart posters, seasonal wellness journals. So if you have an idea that you would love to see me create in the Etsy shop, definitely leave me a comment below. I'll leave a little reminder also as a poll there. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next month.